If I had $1 for every time a pastor asked me, Caleb, I know we need to be on social media, but I don't know what platforms to use, and I don't know what to post, I would have enough money to afford a reasonable amount of toilet paper. Just like the last video, the answer to both of those questions are, it depends. I know that this is something that I struggle with for a very long time. Social media is not something that I'm natural at. It's not something that I wake up in the morning and get super excited about, really, being honest. But I've learned to get good at it. Not just because it's my job, because it's a tool, a powerful tool that we can use as Christians, as churches, for evangelism. I want to start this video out with the world's largest disclaimer. A huge chunk of what I'm going to talk about today is not my own stuff. There is a book that every single person watching this video needs to buy and read as soon as possible. I would show you my copy, but unfortunately, it's locked at the church right now under quarantine. So this book right here, Rethink Communication by Bowdle. I'm not a big reader, honestly. I'm more of a video guy, if you hadn't noticed already. But when I got this book, I read it through entirely in one day, and I've read it twice since then. The stuff that Phil talks about in this book has fundamentally changed my perspective of how to use social media effectively. And so much of what I'm going to talk about in the video is directly ripped from the book. The only problem is I don't have the book to check what's in the book and what's just coming from my head. So the safest route is just to buy the book. Phil does a much better at explaining things than I ever could. So let's get into it. You have finally perfected your Sunday morning live stream. Every camera shot was perfect. The lower thirds were right on time. The audio was magnificent. And you've suddenly realized that out of the 168 hours of the week, you have filled one of them with ministry. What are we doing with the other 167 hours of the week? What are you doing with them? At the time that this video is posted, I'm still in quarantine. We don't have the option for Wednesday night services and youth activities and kid activities throughout the week. All we have is online digital ministry. That means using tools like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, these social media tools to engage with people, to minister to people throughout the rest of the week. But before we go about setting up a plan, we need to understand what your goal is with using social media. I have an important question that you need to answer. Is the goal of your social media strategy to advertise your Sunday morning services or to engage people online? Is it to bring people into the church or bring the church out to people? Is it to benefit your attendance numbers or the people in your community? I know these are difficult and harsh questions, but if you don't understand the goal of what we're aiming for here, it's very easy to misplace your focus. I want you to imagine for a second a TV station. Once every week, this TV station puts out some killer new TV show. Everyone's talking about it. The story is amazing. The cinematography is awesome. It's just, people can't get enough of it. But then the entirety of the rest of the week, all that's playing on that TV show is advertisements for that show. How often would you tune into that channel? Once. You would tune in once a week, because to use marketing language, advertisement isn't content. People don't like to be advertised to. They like to be engaged with. They like to have a conversation. They like to feel like there's a real person who cares about them on the other side of the screen. If the only time you're going to social media to post is to advertise your services or events, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to engage the community around you. So, now that we understand the goals, let's talk about what platforms we should be on in the first place. This is actually way simpler than you think it'd be. Who do you want to reach? And where are they? Are you looking for teenagers, youth group age? Facebook is not where they are. They're on Instagram, maybe, but definitely on things like TikTok and Snapchat. College age is on those platforms as well, but more centralized on Instagram for the most part. A little bit older, we get into the Facebook crowd, and honestly, Facebook goes way up until 50s, 60s, or older. Be honest with yourself with who you're trying to reach and the tools that they're using to communicate. Now, I want to get out ahead of something. There's a couple of you that probably cringed or even shut off the video entirely when I suggested that some churches maybe should be using TikTok or Snapchat. These platforms, just like any other, are susceptible to negative content. The content on these sites can be overly sexual or inappropriate or dark or heavy or whatever. I mean, Facebook can be just as overwhelmingly oppressive as any other website out there. Like I said, social media is not really my thing. It's not where I prefer to be. Usually when I'm on it, I feel worse afterwards. I do it for work and I do it for Blackbar, and I'm out of it for as often as I can be. But I'm really glad that that's not the perspective that missionaries have when they're going to third world countries. These places are dark. They are heavy. They are unpleasant and unwelcome to the message in a lot of times. But to me, that just communicates a need that it's our job to fulfill. We have the opportunity to shine brighter, to reach further, to do more, to reach people with the gospel. Don't write off any particular program because it's a scary place. Make it less scary. Platforms are just tools. It's up to you to figure out how to use it effectively. So you have figured out your audience, you have figured out the platforms, hopefully, that you're wanting to use. Now let's talk about the kind of content we're actually going to be posting on these platforms. My church has wholeheartedly adopted the model that Phil Bowdle sets in Rethink Communication. He separates out content into 3 different categories: engage, encourage, and inform. First, let's talk about engaging. Engaging is very similar to what we were talking about in the last video. Engagement is the conversation coming back towards the content creator. It's your likes and your comments and your shares. When we talk about making engaging posts, we talk about making stuff that we want people to interact with. A simple question that I found really helpful to see if a post is actually engaging or not is I ask myself, if I saw this scrolling through my feed, would I comment? Would I like it? Or would I share it? It's a helpful question to ask for sure, and I think you should, but it's also important to know that you, in many cases, are not your target market. There are many times that I have to advertise women's events or kids events and whatnot, that the content's not for me. So it's important to ask those people, if you have access to them, would you engage with this kind of post? Is this something you would find interesting? A couple random examples of posts that we've done that fill the engagement role. People love testimonies. They eat them up. If you could tell a compelling story in a video, doesn't have to be a video, it could just be a picture and with some text. People love to they love to share those things. Another one, a simple post you could do is just, how can we pray for you? And don't just post it and leave it. Engage with them. Have a conversation with the people that you're praying for. If you're really careful about it, you can also get a lot of success on commenting or asking questions about ongoing current events and things like that. Obviously, it's important to stay out of touchier subjects, but if there's already a conversation happening online, enter the conversation. Simple and dumb as it sounds, it's the easiest way to sound and communicate and look relevant to the people in your community. The second category that Phil talks about is encourage. As of right now, in this season of quarantine, everybody could use some encouragement. But honestly, if you're watching this in the future, I would venture to guess that the same holds true. A short and quick, powerful Bible verse is a super easy way to do this sort of thing. I'd also try to look at repurposing the content that you already make on Sunday. Our church does a couple posts like this every week. We do something that we call internally a notable quotable, where we take an interesting and powerful quote from this past sermon and post it with a picture of the pastor or a stock image that matches whatever he's talking about. We also do something called a sermon snippet. This can be 10 seconds long, it could be a minute or 2 long, but it's a short little clip of the sermon that gives new people an idea of what that sermon was and a link to where they can view the whole thing. Inspiring quotes from other ministry leaders or pastors or just anybody is also really good too. Lastly, we have arguably the most dangerous category, inform. Inform in a lot of ways is just a different way of saying advertise. This is where we do talk about our Sunday morning services, our Wednesday night services, anything like that. Now, I want to say there's nothing wrong with talking about this stuff on social media. It can be a tool for advertisement, but it's important that this is far from the majority of the content that you post. In Rethink Communication, the book I recommended, Phil recommends that no more than 20% of the content that you post every week is informing content. This is anything to your upcoming services, events, baptisms, whatever. If you could start the post with, join us, it's an informing post. If you're having difficulty staying on track with posting on a regular basis, I would highly suggest trying to plan out a little bit in advance and set up a calendar. I am the least organized person in the entire world. Ask my admin. But I promise you, there is no faster way of getting burned out on social media like trying to come up with a new post every single day. Also, I am very typically against pushing people towards templates and pre-made content. But I know that social media is something that we often have to move quickly, and sometimes we don't have the time to produce content ourselves. If you're just looking for an engaging post or an encouraging post and you need to grab one really quickly, my church has used sundaysocial.tv. They have tons of really awesome, really professional quality that you can change and edit yourself. This is not sponsored in any way, but it's a resource that we found useful, and I'm sure you would too. I know I plugged it several times in the video today, but if you haven't yet, go check out that Rethink Communication book. Again, it was instrumental in my own understanding of how social media works, and I think every single church should read through it once. In the next video, which if you're watching on the day of release will be out tomorrow, we're going to talk about growing your online audience through the use of targeted social media advertising. It's a whole new world to explore, and there's way more details that we can cover in a single video, but I'm hoping to give you the basics of where to get started. With any of these new strategies that we're talking about, either through live stream or social media or whatever, it's important to not think about these things as if we're building them for a season. Yes, they are absolutely necessary and vital for church communication right now, but these are powerful tools with or without the ability to meet in our churches. Be thinking about sustainability. Reasonably, how often can we post? Who's going to be managing that? What's a production level that we can be comfortable with, that we can actually achieve on a weekly basis? Just because you can pull it off for a couple weeks or a couple months does not mean it's worth burning yourself out because you've set the standard too high to be reasonably achieved on a regular basis. Get a team in place, volunteers, staff, whatever it takes, and work together to show the world the power of the gospel through these digital tools. Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of Blackbar. If you haven't yet, please check out the Blackbar podcast. We release content every single week, going deeper into the content we talk about here on the videos. Also, if you get stuck on any of this, or you just need to be able to talk with other church media people or pastors, check out the Blackbar Discord. We have hundreds of people working together, building the body of Christ. We are all in this together. Lastly, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.